Hello everyone, my name is Asad Nayani and I have been working as a data analyst for a leading financial institution. I believe the best way to learn any new technology is through a hands-on project. And with that approach in mind, I have created a very hands-on project. I have created a very hands-on Tableau crash course. Tableau is a great data visualization tool known for its robust features and user-friendly interface. Some of the great features of Tableau are data connectivity and data blending. This allows analysts to connect with various data sources and blend them together in a single view. User-friendly interface allows analysts to drag and drop data fields to quickly visualize the data. Advanced visualizations such as bar charts, tree maps, scatter plots, heat maps, and much more allows a lot of options of visualization. Interactive dashboards allows users to create a customizable dashboard that provides insights briefly. Users can then drill down into the data and use real-time filter to get a deeper insights into the data. Finally, the best feature of Tableau is collaboration and sharing. Tableau allows analysts to publish their visualization and dashboard to the Tableau server that allows for a broader user access. In this course, you are going to learn about all these features by working with a real-world Airbnb listing data. In this course, I will first introduce a concept to you, and then later on we will use that concept in our project. I hope at the end of this course you are comfortable enough and confident enough to take a deeper dive into the world of visualization using Tableau. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy this course.
Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to understand the data attributes of inside Airbnb listing data. Before you start creating visualization, it's important for you to understand the data that you're working with, and we're going to spend some time understanding the data attributes. We are also going to go over Tableau public website and how to download the public version of Tableau desktop application. I'm also going to spend some time in understanding the dashboard that we are going to be creating at the end of this entire course, and so let's get started. If you ever heard about Airbnb, it is basically a website that provides opportunity for homeowners to list their properties for short-term rental to individuals across the world, like tourists and etc. Now, it pretty much covers the entire the major metropolitan area of the entire world, but in our case, we are going to go over the 3 cities that it has in Texas, that is Austin, Dallas, and Fort Worth. Now, to be consistent, we are going to go over the listing information provided up until March 2024 for the 3 cities. I highly recommend you use the CSV that I have provided, because I have done some data cleaning, and so make sure you use the CSV that I have provided and not download the CSV from here. But let's now discuss the data dictionary. And so if you click on the data drop down, click on the last icon that says data dictionary, and it's going to open up a spreadsheet, and make sure that you are at the latest version of this listing.csv, and just go over this spreadsheet. It should be really straightforward, but it has information about the listing, it has information about the host, about the property, about the neighborhood, about the accommodation price, reviews, etc. It should be really straightforward, but I just want to go over some important attributes. The first one, which is on row number 9, the field name is ID. It is a unique identifier for the listing. And another important one is host ID, which is a unique identifier for host/user. As you can see, it also has information like latitude and longitude, which is going to be really useful to us when we are going to connect this table with the zip information, and so we are going to use these attributes to connect that or create that relationship. Let's discuss Tableau Public now. If you search for Tableau Public on any of the popular search engine, this is the website that you should see in the top results. The name of the website is public.tableau.com. And this website allows data analysts to publish their visualization, and it is also a great tool to run about data visualization because you can see all the visualization created by other analysts and download them and explore them in Tableau application. To download the Tableau application, hover over to the Create tab, and the second option that says Download Tableau Desktop Public Edition, click on it. And this is the page that it's going to forward you to. Click on the download button, and after providing some very basic information, you should be able to download the application with ease. And once the download finishes, this is how the application is going to look like. So like I said, this website allows you to search for visualization. So let me show you the visualization that we are going to create, and I have that visualization published as part of my featured visualization. So I'm just gonna search for it. Airbnb Texas listings, and this is the dashboard that I created, that is published, that others can search. And as you can see, this is an interactive dashboard, meaning that I can select different cities and the view is going to change. So this is all the listing in the city of Fort Worth. You can actually change the view by clicking on any of the room types. So if I want to see the top zip codes by private room, or rather the shared room, I just have to click on the shared room. And so far in the city of Fort Worth, we have only 4 zip codes, and this is the most this is the zip code 76110, where we have the most listings. This dashboard also allows the user to switch between the view. So for example, if the user wants to see, instead of a tree map, a polygon map, they can click on it and they can see the listing or the zip information by a polygon map, or rather in a polygon map. They can do the same thing, shared room, and so far 6 zip codes, and this zip code, which has the darker shade, represents the higher listing. 76110 is the same as previous one. All right, so at the end of the course, this is the dashboard that you should be able to create. It's relatively straightforward. I'm going to teach you how to create this visualization step by step, and so I'm really excited. Hope to see you in the next video. Hello everyone. In this video, we are just going to explore the Tableau desktop. We are not going to create any of the date worksheets that we set out to create at the start of the video, but I just want you to go over some of the basic concept of Tableau. And so we're going to start by adding data sources and exploring what is the data source tab and how to navigate the data source tab. And then you're going to understand what is a union and can we create union in a data source. And finally, we are just going to explore the data and also get ourselves familiar with the interface of the worksheet. And worksheet is basically an important concept because it is the combination of worksheet that allows us to create a fully functional, dynamic, interactive dashboard. And so this is all I want to go over in this video. So let's get started. The first thing that you're going to observe when we open the Tableau public desktop software is this page, which is basically asking us to connect to any of the data type. Now, it's important for us to understand that in the actual paid version of Tableau software, we're going to have a lot more options to connect to various different data types. You can actually use any client and directly fetch the data from a SQL or a NoSQL data type. But unfortunately, in Tableau Public, we don't have this option. And so since we are working with CSVs, we're going to be using text file option of the connect. And so when I click on the text file, it's going to prompt me to a directory, and I have already provided all the 3 city listings along with the zip code lookup. So just keep it in a separate directory, and once you have put it in a separate directory, just simply click on any one of the listing, and as soon as you do that, the Tableau software is going to prompt you to a completely different interface. So let's go over what's happening here. On the left, you can see that all the CSVs in that directory are populated on the left. And on the bottom right, you can see information about the data. This chart on the bottom left represents the data type, and the color represents either discrete or continuous value. So discrete and continuous value is an important concept in Tableau, and it is essentially means if it's a discrete data type, it's going to be either string, boolean, dates, and other data types. However, if it's a continuous, then it's mostly going to be either numerical, as you can see here, geospatial variables like latitude and longitude. These data types are mostly going to be continuous. Now we're gonna see how the behavior of the field changes in the worksheet if it's depending on if it's a discrete data type or continuous data type, but let's just go over this sheet real quickly. Another thing that you can see is the Tableau is automatically going to populate the first 100 rows of the CSV that we have connected. But if you want to see more, let's just say you want to see 1,000, you can just simply type in 1,000 rows here, and then it's automatically going to populate the top 1,000 or the first 1,000 rows. Now we have already only connected the Austin listing. Let's introduce a concept of union to add the other 2 listings as well. And if you have studied the concept of union in SQL, it's essentially the same thing. Since the schema of Austin listing is the same as Dallas and Fort Worth, and by schema I mean the data structure and the column name is exactly the same, we can create a union by simply dragging the CSV and dropping it onto this union tab that is being populated when I put the CSV on top of the Austin listing CSV. So once you drop it, you can see the icon change representing a union. And if you click on added union, you can see the 2 CSVs that is representing this manual specific union. Let's also drag and drop the Fort Worth and observe the union again. Now we can see 3 cities and 3 CSVs representing a union, which is perfect. And like I mentioned, I'm able to do this easily because the schema or the data structure or the column names of the 3 CSVs is exactly the same. So that's why I can easily do it. So let's actually change the name. To change the name of the data, you can actually just click here and rename, and then just change it to maybe Texas listing data. And at this point, let's basically all I wanted to go over in the data source. So now let's go to the worksheet. And it's important for us to recognize that worksheet is going to be the building block of our dashboard. A dashboard is nothing but a combination of one or more worksheets represented in basically a templated layout, right? And the dynamic nature of the dashboard is nothing but the filtration that is happening on individual views. So let's just explore real quickly about this interface of the worksheet. On the top, you can see the column shelf and the raw shelf, and you can also see the filter block and the mark block. So essentially the mark along with the rows and columns are going to help us to represent our data. So let us just simply double click on the ID and see what happens. So as you can see, since the Tableau is recognizing this as a discrete data type, it's automatically being represented by the blue color, but we can essentially change that. We can click here and change it to continuous, and once I then drag and drop again, drag and drop again, the presentation or the representation of the ID has changed from a table to a graph, and this is basically what is the major difference between a discrete and a continuous variable. Now most of the time you're gonna see automatically that this view is going to be changed to an aggregated view, but essentially we are not observing this now. So we can actually just change this ID to an aggregated view. So let's just say if we want to see how many IDs we have in this entire dashboard or this entire data set, we can simply click here and change from the measure to count distinct ID. And as you can see now, we can see a better representation of the IDs. Now, if you don't like this view and you want to change the continuous nature of this to a discrete, you can simply change it from continuous to discrete, and it's automatically going to change. Let's introduce something in the column and see how the behavior of this entire dashboard changes. So if I were to, I don't know, just see the increase in the listing over the years, I can simply drag and drop the last view, which is, as you can see, is already represented by a date. Just simply drag and drop here. It is automatically going to give us over the years what has been the growth. But like I mentioned, we are not observing a graph because this is a discrete. This is basically a discrete view, and so to change it to a graph, we have to change it back to continuous. And so, as you can see, since I guess 2022, we have observed a significant growth in the number of listings, and so this is what we can see. I don't like the fact that it's not spreading to this entire page, and so to spread it to the entire worksheet, you can simply click here and just change it to entire view, and that's it. Now there are a few other important things that I would like to mention. As you can see, for some of the listings we don't have the year available, and so we can actually choose to exclude that by simply right clicking on the null and clicking on the exclude. So this is much better. Now let's just say that you want to see all the listings since 2016. As soon as we excluded the null, we can see that the year has already being populated into this filter block here, and so we can actually see what's happening. As you can see, we have excluded null, so let's also exclude 2012, 13, 14, and 15. And so we can see how the behavior of the graph is changing, and now we have only the data from 2016 up until 2024. Another thing that I would like to introduce is the concept of analytics. As soon as we have some dashboard or some view, you can introduce analytics. It's not going to work. It's going to be pretty much grayed out when we have nothing. So let me show you. So in this worksheet, we have absolutely no view. And so as soon as I go to analytics, I see everything is grayed out. And so we're not going to explore the depth of analytics in this course, but I just wanted to show you that it is a very important feature of Tableau. And so if I want to see the trend line over the years, and I simply double click on the trend line, and voila, I can see a trend line. But like I said, we're not going to be using any of the analytics features. So let's just remove that. So I guess we have already, in this video, this is all I wanted to go over, just the basics of Tableau. In the next video, we're going to start building one by one the components of our dashboard. And so we're going to start with the top two: total listing, total host ID, and also the total count of zip codes. So the top three components of our dashboards we're going to start building in the next lecture. So I'll see you there. Hello again. In this video, we are going to go over mark cards and essentially how using mark cards you can control visual analysis onto your worksheets. So it's a really important component of Tableau to understand. We are also going to go over relationship and how using relationship you can introduce new data sources in a much more flexible and dynamic way. One of the most important thing for you to understand is how a relationship differs from a join, and so we are going to go over that in this video. Finally, we are going to create three worksheets, that is total listing, total host, and total zip codes, and these three worksheets are going to be part of our Tableau dashboard that we are going to be creating. So let's get started. It's important for us to understand the concept of mark card, and essentially a mark card is the key element for visual analysis in Tableau. Every time you want to sort of control the visualization, you're going to be using mark cards along with the attributes in the column shelf and the raw shelf. So since we are interested in just figuring out how many hosts there are or how many listing there are in the three cities that we have selected for analysis, let's bring the ID to the mark and see the behavior. So since I'm only interested in the numerical value, all I have to do is drag the attribute from the table and bring it to the text portion of the mark card. And as soon as I drop it, you can see that these are all the listings, or like the unique identifier of a listing in the three cities that we have selected. Like I said, we are interested in the aggregated value, so all I have to do is click on the drop down of the attribute and select count distinct. As soon as I do that, you can see that there are a total of 22,367 listings in the three cities. Let's actually expand the view and change it from standard to cover this entire sheet. And to control the format, all I have to do is again click on the drop down of the attribute in the mark card, click on format, and bring the alignment to the left and just keep it in the middle. You can actually control the size. Again, on the mark card, as you can see, there is a size button. Click here and you can actually just control it with this slider. Perfect. Let's change the name. This is the total listings, and now let's actually find out how many hosts there are in the three cities for our analysis. Click on the sheet and open a new sheet. Drag and drop the host ID and again drop it to the text portion, and as you can see, these are all the host IDs. Since we're interested in the aggregated view, we have to again click on the drop down of the attribute, click on go to measure and select count distinct. Again, expand it to the entire view, format it exactly the same way as we did for the previous sheet. and control the size too. That's actually better. Change the name of the sheet. Total hosts. Now, let's see. If I were to search for zip codes, I actually cannot figure it out. Then that's because we haven't introduced the table that contains the zip code in our data source. And to actually do that, all we have to do is go back to the data source, and there's one CSV. As you can see, it goes by zip code, lat, long, and lookup. Just simply drag it to this white space, and as soon as you do that, the previous sheet is already trying to sort of like relate to this new sheet that we are about to drop. And as soon as I do that, as you can see, it's actually giving us an error. It says the relationship has no matching field. Added the relationship to select the matching field. Now at this point, there's one important concept of Tableau that I want to introduce, and that's called relationship. Relationship is simply the relationship between the two data sources. The idea is somewhat similar to a join, where we have the attribute of one table which is going to be the same as the attribute in the as some of the attributes in the another table, except in the relationship the tables are logically different and they are kept separate, versus in the join, as soon as you create a join, let's just say an inner join, all of the table are now going to be converted into a new table, and relationship is actually very different. Like I said, one of the biggest difference is that relationship, the table between the relationship are going to be kept separate. So it's really important. It's going to help us to analyze and separate out our data. So let's go back to the error. Let's see what it says. The relationship has no matching fields. Added the relationship to select matching fields. And what basically this is saying is that this table wants to relate to this table, but it actually doesn't know how to. What are the attributes that it needs to select and to sort of create a relationship. And to do that, all we have to do is click on this relationship, click on this line, select the field on the listing table. So since we are trying to connect the latitude and longitude with the zip code, all we have to do is select latitude, select latitude, and then add one more field which is called the longitude. Now performance option is actually something which is not mandatory to sort of like establish, but it does help in the performance of the filter. And since this is really not a constraint for us at this moment, it's okay if I don't really set up the performance option and keep the one that is default. Now let's go back and click on a new sheet. And if I were to search the zip code, as you can see, I can see the zip code, and also observe that in the data, you can see two different data sources because we have introduced two different CSVs. And so as soon as I want to see, I want to see at this point how many zip codes we are covering in the 3 cities. And so all I have to do again is drag the zip code and drop it to the text portion of the mark card, change the measure to distinct, and again format. Let me just format it real quickly. Also increase the size, and that's it. In the next video, we are going to expand our knowledge of mark cards, and I'm going to show you how using mark cards we can create different visualization. We are also going to go over filters and how to introduce filter onto a worksheet. So stay tuned. Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to expand our knowledge of mark cards and understand how to create different visualization by controlling the mark cards. And while doing so, we're going to be introduced with two new concepts, which is measure and dimension. And if you understand qualitative data and quantitative data, that should be really straightforward. Finally, after understanding markouts, we're gonna go over and create two new graphs for our dashboard, which is a pie chart and a tree map. And at the end of the video, I'm going to introduce to you the concept of filter, and we're going to introduce a filter onto a worksheet. So let's get started. This is a great article that is published onto Tableau documentation, and it basically goes over what chart type is good for you or right for you based on the questions you're trying to answer, the data that you have, and how you want to present it to your viewers. And you can go over each categories, but the one that we are interested in is called part to whole, and that category includes pie chart and tree map. And so let's go over and see how to create each of the different charts. To create a pie chart, you have to select pie in mark type, and in the color portion of the mark card, we have to have a dimension column or a dimension data. A dimension is anything that is of qualitative in nature. Think about your string values and booleans. That's a prime example of a dimension data. And then in the angle portion of the mark card, we're going to have a measure. And a measure is usually a quantitative data. Think of this as an aggregated value. In our case, since we are interested in figuring out the total listings, so we're going to select the count distinct ID. So let's see if we can create a pie chart for our dashboard. And so open a new worksheet and select ID. Oh, and actually before you do that, you need to make sure that in the mark you select pie. And as soon as you do that, you're going to notice that the angle portion is now introduced. And so that's good. So let's see if we can drag the ID onto the angle portion. And as you can see, it's automatically rendering a circle because we selected pi. But the issue is that it's not actually selecting a measure. And so we're going to actually have to do it ourselves. In the measure portion, click on the drop down of the data value, and then of the data field, and the measure, select count distinct. And as soon as you do that, you can see that there are 22,000 listings, but actually I want to see how they are dispersed over the room type. And so we're gonna select room type, and this is a qualitative data, so we're gonna drop it onto the color portion. And as soon as we do that, our pie chart is complete. But let me actually format it. All right, there you go. This is our pie chart. And so let's see if we can create tree map now. To create a tree map, we need to have the mark type as either automatic or square. The color has to be either a measure or dimension based on what information we want to present to the viewer. The size has to be one of the measure. So again, since we are interested in figuring out total ID, I think we're going to select the count distinct ID in this size portion. And in the label or detail, you can have either one or multiple dimension. So give this a shot, see if you can make a tree map. If not, then it's okay. I'm gonna make it for you, and then see if you can compare. If you can make it, then compare your tree map with mine. And so let's see if we can make it. So create a new worksheet and select the mark type as either automatic or square. I'm gonna go with square. The color has to have one of the two. We can either have a dimension or a measure. So if we are thinking about a measure, how about we want to see how expensive a zip code is, right? And so if I can introduce somehow the average price onto this tree map, that's going to be great, right? So let me go over and search for price and drag and drop the price onto the color portion. And by default it's actually going with sum, but as I said, we're interested in the average. So I'm going to change it to I'm going to change it to average, and there you go. I can see the average price is $257 a night. Perfect. So now on to the size. Since I'm interested in the total listings, I'm gonna drag the ID onto the size, and again select count distinct. There you go. That's we've done with, we're almost there. The final portion is to introduce in either label or detail one or more dimension. So since I want to see based on the zip codes, let me actually just drop the zip code onto the label. And if I were to drop it onto the details, we could not see the zip code as a label. So let me actually put it back. So that's good. Since we can have more attributes onto our label, I can see the zip code, but I actually don't know which city it belongs to. Let me select for metro area. So if I were to drag the metro area onto the label portion, I can see that this actually belongs to Austin, and I could not see it here because probably the zip code is not available. But for the ones that we have it, I can see it. So this is how easy it is to create tree map and pie charts. Now, as the last portion, I actually would just want to introduce to you the concept of filter. And to introduce a filter onto a worksheet, it's really easy. I want to see I want to filter this view or this worksheet based on the metro area. So if I were to drag the metro area onto the filter portion, I can select which metro area. Let's actually select all of them. And there you go. I can now go to edit filter, select one or two. Let's just select Austin. We can see the view is now updated. Let me actually select Dallas. So as you can see, let me select Dallas and Fort Worth, and so as you can see, the view is now getting updated. But what if I actually don't want to go to the edit filter all the time? I actually can go on to show filter, and I can select and control the filter here. Now, if you remember in our dashboard, we are actually not interested in selecting multiple. We either want to give user the option to have all of them or one of the three, and so I can actually customize this. Click on the filter card, click on the drop down, and select in the single value, go for list. And as soon as you do that, as you can see, we can either control all of them or have one of the three cities. So that's it. That's all I wanted to go over in this video. In the next video, we're gonna dive deep onto filter and see the order of operation as well. All right, thank you so much. I'll see you in the next video. Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to expand our knowledge of filters, and we are going to introduce the top 15 zip codes by listing onto our tree map. We are also going to understand what are order of operations in Tableau and why they matter. And once we understand the order of operation, we are going to change the order of filter by adding the attribute metro area to the context filter. And if you don't know what is a context filter, don't worry. That is something that we are going to understand while we go over order of operations. Finally, at the end of the video, we are going to introduce parameters, which is going to allow us much more dynamic and interactive control over the top end filters. And so let's get started. Now at this level in our tree map, we have only one filter introduced, and this is again in the context of this worksheet, it is called a dimension level filter. To add one more filter, all we have to do is drag the zip code and drop it here. And since we are interested in top, we are going to click over to the top, select by field, and we can either use a parameter or we can manually enter the value. So for now, let's just manually enter the value. We are going to enter 5, or let's just do 15. And the measure that we are going to select for the top 15 is going to be count distinct ID. As soon as I click apply, you can see the view is now changed. And if you take a closer look at the filter section, we now have 2 dimension level attributes. And this, after studying this tree map, we can see that most of the top zip codes belongs to Austin, and there are only, I don't know, 3 Dallas that I see. And so I wonder what would happen if I select Dallas. I see only 3, even though we selected 15. And in the case of Fort Worth, I see nothing, because in the top 15 there is no city, there is no zip code that belongs to Fort Worth. And so the reason that this is actually happening is because of the order of operation. As I mentioned, both of them are a dimension level filter, and we cannot change the precedence of the filtration simply by moving the zip codes. Ideally, what we want is the metro area filter to be executed first, and then whatever data remains should flow at the zip code level filter. But this is not happening clearly. So what we need to do is make sure that this filter is executed before the zip code filter. And to do that, we need to introduce this filter to the context filter. So let me actually show you a diagram. So imagine the data is flowing in a pipeline, and at each of these layers, the data is going to be filtered out. And in the view that we see is after the data has already gone through layers of filter, if we have introduced those filters. And in the case of Tableau Public, we don't get the option to introduce extract level filters simply because we cannot extract a data, but we can introduce all the other filters. And let me actually show you what is a data source filter and how we can introduce a data source filter. Now, data source filter in terms of order of operation or precedence, it's after the extract filter but before any of the other filters. And so let me actually show you. To add a data source filter, we have to go to the data source. On the top right, we see the option for filter. Click on add, and you can see this model that is opening. Click on the add, and these are all the attributes that we can select for our filtration purposes. So I'm just gonna show you an example. In our dashboard, we actually don't really need to introduce any data source level filters, so this is just purely for educational purposes. So if I select ID, and if I go to the special section, I want to see all the IDs where the values are null. And as soon as I click OK, you can see that apparently there are no IDs where the value is null. And so watch what happens if I go to the worksheets. I see no data because there is no data to be rendered. And same is the case with tree map. So as you can see, the data source filter level impacts all the other worksheets and all the other bottom level filters. So let me actually just remove this since we don't need it. And go back to the tree map. So our objective is to change the order of precedence by making sure that this filter is executed before the zip code filter. And to do that, all we have to do is change the filter order from the dimension filter to the context filter. And think of context filter as an independent filter. The precedence is still after the data source filter but before any of the dimension or measure level filters. And so let me actually show you how to change the order. Go back to the workbook, click onto the drop down of the attribute that you want to send to the context level filter, and you're going to see an option called add to context. And as soon as you click on it, you can see that the data is now grayed out, and now I can see the top 15 for each of these cities. Perfect. So another thing that we can do for our worksheet is to have a dynamic level control over the zip code. So instead of manually selecting the top 15 like so, let's just say if I want to go select top 10, every single time I want to do that, I have to click on this edit filter. But there's an easier way to do it, and we are going to use parameters to do it. So to introduce a parameter, besides the just right of the view data, you're going to see a drop down. Click here and select create calculated field. Oh, sorry, create parameter. Imagine parameter as a form that you're introducing that is going to be controlled by a user. And so in this form, the values that we are going to be dealing with is an integer, because the top n value is going to be an integer. And so I actually like the default values where the maximum is 100, the minimum is 1, and the step size is 1. So I'm just gonna select the default values. And now that you can see that we have a parameter, I actually forgot to change the name, so let me just change the name to top and zip codes. Perfect. Now we can see the parameter here, but to control the parameter we actually have to show the parameter. So we can control the parameter like here. So I've selected 10, 15, so on and so forth. So even though we have shown the parameters and created the parameters, we still have not linked it with the zip code. So to do that, all we have to do is in the filter sections, go to the drop down, click on edit filter. We are still going to be move over to the top tab, and instead of selecting a value or entering a value, we are going to observe then our newly created parameter, which is the top n zip codes. And so as soon as I click on that parameter, click apply, as you can see now we can have much more dynamic control over our view. So that's it, that's all for this video. In the next lecture we are going to understand what is a calculated field and how we can create a calculated field in Tableau. And so stay tuned, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Hello everyone. In this video we are going to go over calculated fields, and I'm going to show you how we can create new attributes using calculated fields. Now in calculated fields we can use various functions. We are going to use some of the string functions and create a attribute called total amenities. Afterwards we are going to use total amenities and create a histogram out of it, and then later on I'm going to use that attribute as a tooltip. So let's get started. I just want to show you one thing before we go over the calculated field. So these are all the amenities, and if you go over just as an example, an amenity is nothing but a comma separated list. And so if I can somehow calculate how many commas there are in each of the list, I can infer the total amenities. And so let me actually show you how I can do that. First we are going to create a new calculated field. Let's name this total amenities. In calculated fields we can use various functions, and if you want to know what functions we can use, these are all the functions. You can actually filter them by categories. So these are all the number functions, and these are all the string function, and so on and so forth. Since we are going to be using the string function, let me actually just keep it at string. You actually don't have to do that. Even if I keep it all at all, you're going to notice as soon as I start typing something, I'm going to see the description of that function on the right side. And so let me actually calculate total amenities. First we are going to take the length of amenities, subtract from it the length of amenities after replacing all the commas with nothing. And so this is how we can calculate total amenities. If I click apply, you're gonna notice that a new attribute has been added onto the data section, and this attribute has an equals to sign before it. This indicates that this is a calculated field. So I'm gonna click OK, and now we are going to actually use this and create a histogram out of it. So let me actually drag the total amenities onto a column section, drop it here, and since we are not interested in the aggregated view, I can recast the sum to str, and yes, you can actually use the function in the column and row like this. Click OK, and then I'm going to take the ID and count all the distinct IDs as an aggregated view, and there you go. We have created a histogram, and one of the attribute is basically didn't come with the data. This is something that we created ourselves. So now let me actually use total amenities in the tooltip. I'm going to go over in the top zip codes, and I want to see how many amenities are being offered by the listings in each of these top listings, right? So to do that, all I have to do is go over total amenities, drag and drop it onto the tooltip, and by default it's summing all of the total amenities. I want to see, say, a median, so I'm going to click on median, and now you're going to observe that as a description I can see the median total amenities are 39.000, and so actually I can format it out. So if I want to, and like I said, I can actually use the format directly. So I'm gonna recast it as an I'm gonna put integer function before median. So as soon as I do that, now this is looking much better. But I still don't like the fact that I see my function in the description. So now at this point I can actually format the tooltip, and so on the wordsheet at the top you're gonna notice an option for tooltip. Click here, and then you can actually change the description and format if you like. So I'm just gonna change this to median amenities, and let me actually change the distinct count of ID to total listings. So this is looking much better. You can actually preview it, and this is looking much better, and then I'm gonna click OK, and there you go. Now you can use the same thing on the pie chart. So I'll pause this video and try doing the same thing as we did for tree map, and let me actually show you how we can do that. So let me just go to total amenities, drag it and drop it onto the tooltip. Again, by default is actually using a sum, so I'm just gonna cast into a median, and then change the sum onto a median, and then cast it as an integer. So this is looking much better. Again, we're gonna go to the tooltip and change this to total listings. In the last portion, instead of showing the formula, I just want to say median amenities. Preview it, looking much better, and there you go. In the next video, we are going to use a geographical data and create maps, so I'll see you there. Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to create a map. Since we have some geographical data, it's a good idea to do some geographical analysis. While there are many variations of geographical analysis that you can do in Tableau, we are going to be focusing on a simple polygon map. Afterwards, we are going to expand the scope of a filter. Now, so far, we have only applied filter to a single sheet, but in Tableau, you can customize and apply the filter to multiple sheets. So let's get started. First, let's create a new worksheet. And if you search for zip code, you're going to notice a globe sign before it. This indicates that the Tableau has automatically recognized this attribute as a geographical data. I want you to right click on it and verify in the geographic role that this indeed is a zip code. And once that Tableau has automatically recognized the attribute as a geographical attribute, it is going to create this attribute, longitude and latitude. Now I want you to double click on longitude and then double click on latitude, and automatically you're going to notice that Tableau has rendered a world map. This is going to be our template. Now so far we have not introduced any of our attribute, and so let me search for zip code and drop the zip code onto the details section of the mark card. Now so far we have not changed the type of the mark card, so I want you to change the type from automatic to map. Finally, we are going to introduce the attribute price onto this polygon map. So what I want is, if the zip code is expensive, I want that zip code to have a darker shade, versus if it is less expensive, I want that zip code to have a lighter shade, similar to how we have done for tree map. So search for price, and drop the price onto the color section of the mark card. As always, by default it goes for the sum as the measure. I want you to change it to average, and now we have successfully created a simple polygon map. Let me change the name. Alright, now let's move on to the filter section of this video. If you notice on the zip code tree map worksheet, you're going to notice that we have two filters that applies to this worksheet. If I want to change the scope of this context level filter to include other sheets, all I have to do is click on the drop down and hover over apply sheet, and you're going to notice 4 options. By default, since it is applicable to only this worksheet, this worksheet option is automatically selected. Now the first 2 option applies the filter globally. You can actually customize the behavior by clicking on select worksheet, and since we want this filter to be applicable on the pie chart and listing map, select these 2 worksheets, click OK. And now if you noticed, if I go back to the listing map, the map is now automatically focusing on all the Dallas listings. And same is the case with the pie chart. Notice that on both the pie chart and listing map, I can notice the filter section automatically being populated. So this is all I wanted to show in this video. In the next video, we are going to create a dashboard and bring all of these components onto the dashboard as a very neat layout. So I'll see you in the next video. Hello again. In this video, we are finally ready to make our dashboard. And the first thing that we have to decide while creating a dashboard is to come up with the right layout. We are going to use horizontal and vertical container to create the right layout. Afterwards, we are going to fit individual worksheets onto that container. I'm also going to show you how to add filter actions onto the Tableau dashboard, and this will allow us to have much more interactivity with the dashboard. Finally, we are going to add navigation object to the dashboard, and this will allow us to switch between the two dashboards that we are going to create. So let's get started. To create a new dashboard, at the bottom where you have an option to add new sheets, you're also going to see an option for new dashboard. Click on it. And the layout of a dashboard is very different than that of a worksheet. On the top, you can actually preview your dashboard on various devices. Underneath it, you can see the option for size. Usually with size, we have three options: fixed, automatic, and range. And then under the size option, you can see individual worksheets that we have created. And finally, at the end, these are all the objects that we can drag and drop onto our dashboard. So the first thing that we have to do is come up with the right size. I'm gonna keep it simple, select the fixed size and go with the generic desktop option. So now we are ready to create the right layout for our dashboard. And this is the layout that I have in mind. If you notice that we have a horizontal outer container that is hosting individual worksheets. And then on the vertical container, we have filter and navigation. If you notice, it is called vertical because the individual objects are from top down versus in the horizontal, they are side by side. At the bottom, we have a tree map and a polygon map. And then we also have pie chart for room distribution. We are not going to create any outer container for the bottom two because there's just only one worksheet, and so in the worksheet itself is going to be in a container, so we actually don't really need to create a outer container to house only one worksheet. So let's get started. I am going to first drag and drop and create the horizontal container. Now if you have selected the option tiled, by default it's going to try and fit in the entire view. For this one, I'm going to select the option of floating and drag and drop the horizontal container here. With floating, you can actually decide on the size yourself, and so it gives you much more flexibility. So this is looking good. This is looking good. For the outer container, I like to have a thicker background or a thicker border. So I'm going to select a thicker border in the layout option. And now this container is ready to house individual worksheets. To house individual worksheet, I am not going to go with the option of floating. I'm going to go with the option of tiled and drag and drop the individual worksheets onto that horizontal container. The second one is going to be at the right, and then finally the third one is also going to be at the right. So now as you can see, the outer container is hosting individual worksheets. I like to give a border which is slightly less thicker than the outer border, than the outer container border. So I'm just gonna go ahead with this. Click on the outer container now, go to the option and select the option of distribute contents evenly. And so now you can see each of these individual containers is given the exact same height and width. So now we are ready to create a vertical container. So I'm gonna again select the option of floating and drag and drop the vertical container. Make sure it fits our screen. Maybe slightly on the left. Okay. And then again, I'm going to give a thicker border to this. And now it is ready to house other objects as well. For now, I'm going to leave it empty and move on to the zip code and the room type pie chart. First, I'm going to drag and drop the room type pie chart. And like I said, we actually don't really need to have any outer container because we are hosting only, we are housing only one container. So there's no point in doing so. Let me again give this a thicker border. And now we are ready to drag and drop other worksheets. Now if you notice, we have space for only one more in our layout, and we have two worksheets that are still needs to be housed. So the idea is that using navigation button, I'm actually going to give user the option to select between the two dashboards. So in this dashboard, we are going to drag and drop the zip codes like so. And if you notice that all the filters that we had with the tree map are automatically coming along with the object itself. I am only going to leave this one here. Maybe just let me fix this up real quick. Okay. Now if you notice that we actually want all the filters to be housed here. To do so, I'm going to press on Shift key, drag and drop this filter onto that vertical container. This is looking much better. Now if you want, you can actually drag and drop this here as well, but since this filter is only applicable to the tree map that we have, I'm just gonna leave it here. I'm gonna select the option of fit entire view, and there you go. This is looking much better. I'm going to select a thicker border for this. Let me just drag this on the right just a little bit. Okay, so it's looking good now. If you notice that if we were to click on individual metro area, it's filtering only this worksheet and this worksheet. And the reason we have this is because we have only selected two multiple worksheets. When this filter is applied, we can actually apply this on the entire dashboard by going to the filter again, and instead of selecting multiple worksheet using this option, we can actually apply this globally and select the first option, which is all using related data sources. So we are gonna go onto the drop down, hover over the apply to worksheet and select all using related data sources. So now if you notice, along with the bottom two worksheets, the top zip codes, host and listing worksheets are also getting updated. So this is what we wanted. Okay, so far so good. Let me rename this dashboard to tree map, or rather it should be Texas listing tree map. And now we are going to create another dashboard. And since we don't want to repeat all of the steps, I'm actually just going to right click on the dashboard and click on duplicate. Rename the duplicate as, Texas listing polygon map. And I'm going to now remove this and drag and drop the listing map instead of the top zip code. Again, fix the format a bit, make sure that everything is housed properly and is legible. This is looking better. I am going to give this a thicker border. Now we are finally ready to add the navigation button right here. The idea is that using navigation button, the user can decide on the view themselves. They can either use the tree map or the polygon map. So I am going to drag and drop the navigation object onto the broader metro area. So the quickest way to host any object onto the container is press onto the shift key, and it's automatically going to recognize where you want to drag it, and it's going to fit it right here. So this is how we can house the navigation button. Let me edit the navigation button. So I'm going to click on edit button. The title of this is going to be view tree map. I'm going to click apply, and as you can see, the title has now changed. And the first option that you see is the navigation option. So right now it's navigation to nowhere. We are going to select Texas listing. Actually, we are had the polymap, so we are going to select Texas listing tree map. Click apply. Let me actually verify. All right, so far so good. The background color is black. If you want, you can maybe change it. I don't like black, so I'm just gonna maybe give this shade of green. So okay, this is looking much better. And now if I were to click on it, nothing is gonna happen, and that's because while you're designing, you have to hold on to the Alt key and then click on it. So now if you notice that we have, as soon as I click on it, we change the view, and now we can see the tree map. So I'm going to add the same navigation option onto that tree map. The idea is the same. We are going to drag and drop the navigation object onto that vertical container. Hold on to the shift key so that it's automatically going to fit into that container that we drag onto. Maybe for this one, I'm going to select distribute evenly, or maybe not. I'm gonna manually decide where to house this. Maybe if I were to, yeah, this is looking much better. I'm going to click on the edit button. Give the title to view polygon map. Select the background as maybe green, or for this one, maybe you can select a different shade. I think this is looking much better. Click apply. And select the polygon map. Click apply. And then if you notice that if I click here while pressing the Alt key, I can move to the poly map, and then when I do the same on the poly map, I'm being moved to the tree map. So far so good. So now we're ready to implement the option of filter action onto our dashboard. And so the idea is, if I were to click on this zip code, I want the entire dashboard to be updated. Or if you want, you can actually click on to this pie chart, and the entire dashboard is going to be now filtered on to just show you the listings with the entire home and apartment. To do it, all you have to do is click on to the sheet that you want to use as a filter, and click on this filter key which says use as filter. And notice if I were to click onto the private room, everything is being filtered. Same goes for the entire home apartment. And now if you want, you can do the same thing for zip code. Click on to the use as filter icon. And now if I click here, notice in this we have a total of 240 listings, and majority of them are still private home, but a significant portion is actually private room as well. Now this is how easy it is to add interactivity onto our dashboard. We can do the same thing for this dashboard, click onto the use as filter on the polymap, and same thing for pie chart. All right, let me actually select Dallas, and inside Dallas we can see that there are let me actually all right, so now let's see if I were to click on this zip code in Dallas. Notice that there's only one listing here. For this one we have 5 listing by 5 hosts. And what about for this one? Okay, so 38 listing hosted by 29 individuals, and then majority of them are entire apartments. So there you go. This is how easy it is to add filter actions onto our dashboard. In the next video, we are finally ready to host our dashboard onto the Tableau public website. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I'll see you in the next video. Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to go over what are ignore filter actions. Afterwards, we are going to hide all the unused attributes, and this is part of the performance checklist. Before you publish your dashboard onto the public server, it's important for you to make sure that to improve the performance, you have done the right steps. And so hiding all the unused attribute is part of that step. Finally, once we have hidden all of the unused attributes, we are ready to publish our dashboard onto the server. So let's get started. First, let me show you how to ignore filter action. Notice if I were to click on the block on our tree map, the entire dashboard is getting refreshed, pie chart and the total listing, total host and total zip worksheets. But what if we actually want to ignore what if we actually want to ignore the action and not change the total listing, total host and total zip code? To do that, all you have to do is click on the worksheet, go to the option and select ignore actions. Do the same thing for the other two. And finally, now notice that if I were to click on the block, the top worksheets are not getting refreshed, only the pie chart is getting refreshed. However, if I were to click on the metro area, notice that the entire worksheet is getting refreshed because this is a global filter that we have applied. Let me do the same thing for the other dashboard. I'm gonna use more option and ignore action. There you go. Now let's move on towards hiding all the unused attributes. Notice we have so many attributes, but we have only used few of them. In production, it's always a good idea to only get the attributes or only query the attributes that you are planning on using in your dashboard. But since this is more of an exploratory exercise, it's okay even if we have a lot of attributes. And so one of the most important consideration for you to go over is hiding all these unused attributes before you publish. And doing so is going to improve the filter performance of the dashboard. To hide all the unused attributes, all you have to do is click on the drop down, and notice you're gonna see the option of hide all unused fields. If I were to click on it, and notice that only the attributes that we have used now are visible and the rest have been hidden. So we have successfully hidden all the unused attributes, and now we are ready to publish our dashboard. Before I publish the dashboard, I'm going to save this dashboard onto our local computer. So I'm going to click on save as. I'm just going to use save this as Texas listing, Texas Airbnb listings, March 2024, because I have data up until March 2024. I'm gonna save it. And now I'm ready to publish this dashboard on to the server. So go to the dashboard that you want to publish, and all you have to do now is click on this Save to Tableau Public button. And as soon as you do that, it's going to prompt you to sign in on to the Tableau server. It's getting ready to publish. And there you go. We have successfully published our dashboard. If you hover over to your website, over to your profile, click on My Profile, you're going to notice all the visualization that you have published so far. So this is the one that we just published. If I were to click on this one, at the bottom you are going to notice all the other related dashboards. But there's another thing that I want to show you. Click on the More action, and you can now actually click on the Feature Viz profile, and so this option is going to feature this visualization onto your profile. I'm gonna select this, and now as you can see, this is now featured. You can actually search for your dashboard as well. So let me just do Texas listings. Actually, let me figure out what the name was again. Texas Airbnb listing. Okay. There you go. It is now searchable, and people can actually, other data analysts can actually search for it, and they can see it. So there you go. We have successfully published our dashboard onto the server.